Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. We're doing all this King Crimson and we have reached Jacksonville. We've got to Jacksonville. We've got to 1972. 1972 is a big year, but it's going to take us a while to get through 1972. There's a lot of albums in 72. I think we're going to get up to about episode 24 or 25. 25, actually. This was the first release by this band live since Earthbound. So Earthbound came out in 72 and this came out I think in 98 or 99. 98, it says on here. And it must have been an eye-opener for people that this lineup had been judged so unfairly. Although people generally really liked their version of Schizoid Man, the consensus was, well, it was all this jamming bluesy stuff, but that's because Earthbound doesn't do it justice. This is our first recording without Peter Sinfield. He has left. There is no Peter Sinfield, which is good because this means there's no not to diminish his contributions, because he wrote the lyrics obviously and was important conceptually, particularly with the very early stuff. And this is just a band playing fantastically. This is one of the shows used for Earthbound. So when they went back to America in February, there was this enforced tour, which I'll talk about in a minute, from February to April, after the band had split up, and they recorded a few shows, including this one, and that's what ended up on the Earthbound album. Now, strangely, the sound is kind of horrible. Something's wrong with the sound. It's distorting. As I said last week, the sound for Detroit from the previous tour, they've been home in the meantime, is much better. So maybe the equipment was damaged or something, and that's why. Because it's not that different. It's just this distortion makes it really harsh. It suits the music. I think that's why people like the Schizoid Man. But it is a shame in a way that you can't hear things more clearly. Having said that, in terms of performances, it's probably their definitive performances. They're on fire. At this point, they're absolutely on fire. They may well be knackered, but the rest of the band, other than Fripp, were partying hard and having a good time. So anyway, what happened? They reconvened, I think, in January. The idea is, right, it's four-way writing now. Peter Sinfield's gone, so let's do it. And Mel Collins presents an idea. We don't know what it is. We don't know what structure it was. Maybe it was just an idea. It wasn't a complete track or anything like that. In front of Fripp, and he won't play it. He said, no, not playing it. We've never really been told what was specifically said, but I suppose it was many years ago, so I probably can't remember. But Mel Collins basically was really upset by that, because they thought it was going to be a four-way thing, and obviously, this was his first time he'd attempted this, so it must have taken a lot of guts to say, I've written this, can we play it? He could have at least played it, is the argument, Now, Fripp says it's not King Crimson. That's the thing, and he holds the key to what King Crimson is. It's like a quality control in a way, but a particular type of quality control. So, I think particularly, say, with Adrian Belew stuff, some of it will teeter on the brink of being Belew solo King Crimson, and some of it is Belew solo but is suitable for King Crimson, and he has to make that decision. This has that right vibe. It must have been difficult to express that, and what happened was the rest of the band also walked out and said, right, well, we're leaving as well. So the Fripp has, obviously he's the only surviving member of the band. He defines the band. He tells people, this is the band, this is what we're going to do. But he doesn't like being called the band leader. And really, it's just semantics. It's just, well, what do you mean by leader? Really, that's all it means. And he is in a way a manager, like a good manager. A good manager doesn't do all the work. A good manager gets the best out of the people there. Like, and Miles Davis does the same thing. He would get them to play. He wouldn't say, right, now play this note, now play this note. And Fripp certainly isn't the principal writer in King Crimson. Obviously, I don't know whether over the years altogether he'd probably written the most, but that's all those different bands. Most of the Belew era, but I would imagine Belew would have written more notes than anyone else, apart from the last two albums. And Lizard is an example where Fripp wrote all of it, all the music. So, is Miles Davis the leader of the Miles Davis band? Well, yeah, isn't he? So, it's just about what you mean by leader. But yeah, so Mel Collins says that's when he found out he can't work with Fripp. He's back now, though, which is very, very good news, and I'm seeing them in a couple of weeks. So yeah, the band split, e.g. the evil suits at e.g. said, contractual obligation, you have to tour, allegedly, So they went on tour, and of course what happened is they all loosened up. The rest of the other three guys felt more open to putting their own personalities into the music, and I think that's a good thing, and it took it in a different direction, which is great. And it does sound like Fripp was having fun as well by the end, unlike the previous tour. It's nice to know for once, they're actually enjoying themselves. It wasn't awful, but at the same time, I think that from what they've said, it does sound like it was a bit of a grueling slog. But man, I'm glad they did. Boz supposedly didn't have to sing the fairy music anymore, what he called fairy music, but he did. They still played all of those songs, so I don't know quite what that's about. But yeah, it's really heavy. It's heavier than the '69 band. It's heavier than this band were in '71. It's a different type of heavy. It's an American heavy, but it's got a groove to it, which is why Cirkus works so well. And they are jamming. It's a jamming band, which I'll talk about. I think Boz takes time to get used to. He's the most different King Crimson singer. All the singers, even Baloo, he's out there in a different style to everybody else. Very, very American style. Obviously he scats, and he's coming from that jazz thing, American jazz thing. But he is a fantastic singer. He wasn't given his due in King Crimson. That's not really very fair. Ian Wallace as well. He's more traditional, a much more traditional player than people like Bill Bruford and Mike Giles, obviously. But he's a great drummer doing some great music. You can't only listen to Bill Bruford in your life. You have to listen to other drummers as well, in different styles. So it's great, because we get both. It's not like we get this instead of something else. Fripp is the odd one out, is the thing. And the argument is that when they were forming this band, why Fripp tried to get Wenton in on bass. He wanted someone with that Euro sensibility to tip the balance away from the bluesy stuff. Supposedly it was around this time when things started, they did an encore. They were touring with Alexis Cornet, and they did an encore, and one of them, I think maybe Boz shouted to Ian, 12 bar blues. And he's like, what? You can't do that. And supposedly Fripp didn't play. But there's lots of these jams where, and Fripp does play. He's not always doing an awful lot, but sometimes he does it. And sometimes these jams are generic blues jam, which is great, because you've got Mel Collins playing, it's great. And sometimes they're really good, sometimes. So, it's not like it's bad music. Fripp argues it's not improvisation. That's the thing, is it improvisation? And he calls it jamming. I think Ian Wallace disagreed and said, yes, it is improvisation. But it's just different definitions, isn't it? I think that's a distinction. It marks a distinction between what this band were doing and what the next band were doing, which was definitely improvisation. They were searching for something new. This is about using established stuff and grooving, which is wonderful as well. It's quite a short set list. I don't know maybe because they were in support, or maybe they come on late, or I don't know. And when they released it, I thought it was actually in a bridge. I didn't think it was a complete show, but it is the complete show. So they open with Pictures of a City, absolutely killer version. They are on fire. It's a shame about the Earthbound type distorted sound, but it's fantastic. Boz is just amazing on this stuff. He really rips through the songs, doesn't seem to hurt his voice at all. Great singing. Track 2 is Cirkus. This should have been on Earthbound. I don't quite understand why it wasn't on Earthbound. Obviously Fripp isn't a fan of Lizard. He's less of a fan of Lizard than I am, and I'm not a massive fan of Lizard. But this band's performance of it is so good. The thing about the Detroit show is the sound's better, but this is probably a better performance of Cirkus, and the next couple of shows probably are. But the distortion is annoying, obviously. Ladies of the Road, from now on, I'll say this a few times, Ladies of the Road is much the same as the album version. And Formentera Lady and Sailor's Tale, again, absolutely killer. Obviously, because Sailor's Tale was edited on Earthbound, it was never the same. Finally, 21st Century Schizoid Man, that might be it. That might be the definitive version, but it is the distorted version. That might be better than the Earthbound one. It feels better than the Earthbound one, I can't quite explain. It may be psychological in that the whole Collector's Club thing was so exciting that I just enjoyed that much more than listening to Earthbound on vinyl, which is what it was at the time. See you next week for another Earthbound show, Orlando 72.